Welcome to Suzanne's studio. I'm Suzanne Barnett, your host, and tonight I am so pleased to introduce my guests. They are professional mediators, and they are affiliated with an mediation organization called Learn to Resolve. They are very cute, adorable. You are too, Paul. And it's Jack Hamilton and Paul Hebert. So you're both professional mediators, and the organization is part of the San Francisco Bay Area, right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Okay, so before, I can't wait to tell the audience what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to tell them now, so they won't. Don't switch your TV, because we are going to talk about people who are poor listeners. And these two darling guys are going to help us. So I think it's going to be very exciting. But first of all, Jack, what do you like a lot about being a mediator?
Well, what I enjoy about being a mediator is that I'm able to help people who are at odds with one another. They've been arguing, they've been just in heated arguments for a long time, and they don't know how to get past that impasse. And I'm really appreciative of the fact that I have learned how to help them talk in a more respectful manner, how to put their issues out on the table, clarify those issues, and discover that it's really unfounded assumptions that they've made about each other that have caused their negative feelings about each other. And once they realize that, it opens a door to getting past the long-standing impasse and begin to see the beauty in each other and the opportunity to finally resolve those issues.
And how does that make you feel when that's accomplished?
Very rewarding.
Yeah.
Very, very, it just feels like a talent that I've been born with and also have developed over time has been used for a good cause, and that makes me feel good.
And let's just talk about your book for a moment.
Sure.
It's the, third?
This is the third edition of a book called Conflict, the Unexpected Gift, Making the Most of Disputes in Life and Work. It came out in September. The co-author is Elizabeth Seaman, a long colleague of mine, a longtime colleague of mine, and it is based on the communication principles that are embedded in the mediation process. So the book is an attempt to teach the readers how to communicate more respectfully, more directly, more compassionately, with more empathy, so that they can actually learn how to resolve the issues they have on their own without having to call upon a mediator.
Thank you. And Paul, tell us about you. What do you like about being a mediator?
It's the piece that really strikes me. And I loved when Jack was describing how it feels like a door opens. Before the door opens, it feels like you're talking to characters, people who have a position, who are sort of set in a way when they come in. And when that door opens, they show up who they are. And I enjoy that moment. So that's the most satisfying thing for me, to connect with a person instead of with some story they made up about whatever's going on.
So you really, both of you, have to be wonderful listeners, right?
Well, that's a big part of the job of being a mediator, is to keep working at it and try to set aside my own views on particular matters that the parties are discussing, and put my full attention on trying to understand where they are coming from with respect to their positions, and what brought about these very, very strong feelings they have against each other.
Well, I'm going to ask you both to see if you can help me tonight, which is the opposite of what an interview person is supposed to do. But I think it might be a very helpful experience. Wait a second. Okay. You know, I've been an interviewer for 25 years, and I love to know about people. I really do. I just don't mean to be intrusive, but anybody that I meet, usually, it's so much fun for me to hear about them, really. But since I have been living at the Forum, which I love, for 4.5 years, visiting before that for 8 years before I moved in, there's a couple. They still live there. And in the last 12 years, they have never, ever asked me one question about myself. And I kept thinking, you know I have maybe an ego problem, but I've spent so much time, on and off with this couple, and I can't understand it. And it just irritates the heck out of me. So what do I do about it? Okay.
Well, what we do is listen.
Okay.
Okay, and a piece of that is just to ask questions. When you describe the situation that you're frustrated with, and I feel your frustration in there, I'm curious, how often do you express to them what it is that you're frustrated about?
I don't ever. No, I never have had a chance to talk about myself. It's always about them. And
you seem a little apprehensive about coming out with a direct statement like that.
how do you mean?
Well, why don't you ask me some questions about my life? To come out with that, it seems like you're a little apprehensive about that.
Well, because they're not interested at all. And they have, let me tell you, they have a perfect life. I mean, they've been married for 60 years. They really love each other, but they're totally so self-satisfied with themselves and talking, kind of bragging about their life, that I really feel that they could care less. And that's true. I mean, I'm not making an assumption. Otherwise, why wouldn't, they don't even say, how are you? They say hello. And then I say, how are you? And that's it. They take it off. They take off. And I'm trying to get over my anger because I live there.
So
and nobody knows who it is. And of course, I would never tell.
Your anger is that your interest is not reciprocated.
Right. I'm an invisible person.
You're just a figure in the scene for them to sort of toss comments at and so forth.
Yeah, because I just naturally, I think, ask interesting questions to people, especially if I like them. So now the latest is that I've decided that I'm not ever going to ask them another question.
And how does that feel?
It feels pretty good.
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah, it does, really.
I was curious about that because it seems like as an interviewer, it's in you to ask questions. And
It is.
It's almost like it takes work to stop doing that.
Well, this is just a particular case, and I thought it would be a good example for the show because, now I'm going to say something shocking, but I believe that 98% of all people are poor listeners. I mean, I really believe that. And for whatever reason, like this couple, I've known them for so many years that I figure they're so self-satisfied with themselves and that they want everybody else to know about it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to change them.
You're an interviewer.
Right.
Right? I mean, this is what you've been doing. This is what you're doing with us.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that all your life you've been what other people would characterize as a good listener. because you
you.
express an interest in people, right? And this is one of the first things when we talk about the qualities of deep listening for understanding. One of the first ones is that you encourage people to speak, to say something. And so you create a welcome mat, and they step right up and answer the call. And I guess as you described those people, I thought, yeah, they sound like people with a story that's a pleasure to tell. And any opening to say it is going to trigger it, right?
That's it, exactly.
And it may be that there's other questions that you can ask now. Instead of, how are you? What would be another question that you might ask?
I don't know.
So-
I mean, I'm so conditioned
Yeah.
to these wretches of these people that
So that's tough.
I don't think I care anymore.
And
Paul.
this happens, I think, in an awful lot. When we get into mediations, one of the things that has happened is people have taken offense in some way to what the other person has said or done, and without the benefit of actually confronting them with it. And so it's hard to understand. You say, I don't understand. I can't imagine how someone could fail to show an interest in me after all the interest I show in them. I don't understand. So one of the phrases that I use over and over again in mediation is, help me understand. Something you've said puzzles me, or something you've done puzzles me, and I can't make hide nor hair of it. You seem like people with a really blessed life. You seem like people for whom everything has gone well. And I am curious why you don't express any interest in me.
I don't think I'd have the nerve to do that.
It comes from a place of curiosity.
Yeah, that's true.
We all love someone to be curious. That's one of the reasons you're successful when you interview people, is because we love to talk about yourselves, and you give us the opportunity. When real curiosity is expressed, even if it's a question that feels a little challenging, if it's true curiosity, it's almost irresistible.
So how would I state that question again?
Well, this is how you would state it.
I
how
have
you
to write
would
it
state
down.
it. Yeah, I get this all the time. People say, "Can
Yeah.
I use your words?" And
Yeah.
actually, then it would be me talking.
Yeah.
It needs to be Suzanne talking.
Yeah.
But there's a puzzlement that you experience. You're looking at people who, up to then, you felt were good people, and then something has happened that's beginning to shift your judgment of them. That feels bad. It feels like the relationship is starting to end, like you're not interested in engaging it anymore because of that frustration. All those valuable things might go away.
And you might, as Paul has said, be able to sense some real curiosity that you might have as to who these people really are and how did they learn to be so self-involved in the way they talk with you. One thing we write about in the book is that so many people in our culture have learned to be competitive in the way they talk with other people. And they're always looking for a chance to say more and to keep on talking, and they're not really interested in hearing anything that you might have
That's
to
right.
say.
That's
so you could probably begin to understand a little bit better that that's the way they were conditioned in our society, and you might even, gain some sense of compassion for them that way.
Okay, this is a perfect time to ask you both about the groups that you're doing, that I'm in.
Oh, well, yes.
Yeah,
So-
but I mean, I just think it's been such a worthwhile experience for me, really.
That's the group that you're a
Yeah.
participant in.
Yes, that you two are heading. So tell
Well,
us
it's
about
entitled, it's a three-session workshop, a series, entitled Difficult Conversations, Learning to Talk with People You Disagree With. And the main theme in the workshop is that the better listener you are when you're talking with someone you disagree with, the more likely it is that you will be able to have a conversation with them that is not combative, but it's one where you are sincerely showing the other person that you would like to learn more about where they, how they have come to the position that they hold. And very possibly, I might learn some things that would be very beneficial to me.
Could you two give an example of that? I know you weren't prepared for this, but
An example
of listening to each other. I mean, say you have a disagreement. How would you deal with that? To show the audience.
Well, I think a piece of it, you know, and it's easier actually with what you presented. Like, I feel so frustrated. You're right. You said, you know, this is so frustrating that I'm at the edge of just pushing this friendship away. And to hear that, first of all, and reflect it back, is a piece of what we do. So encouraging someone doesn't take much encouragement usually.
Right.
A little bit though. And then letting them know what I'm getting. So what I heard in that was some criticism, but the thing that I heard underneath it was loss and frustration. And so I need to let you know I'm hearing a lot of frustration and a bit of anger there. And you're at your wit's end about just how do I change this? And so much so that you're ready to walk away. So just reflecting that back to you lets you hear it. And when you hear it out loud from someone else, the first thing that you feel is what?
I feel my anger. I do feel anger about it.
You feel the anger.
I feel that why should I deal with people like that? That's what I feel. I feel like blaming myself, totally, that people are the way they are, and who am I to change that person, to become a good listener, or to have that person be interested in me? I mean, am I that fabulous? Obviously not to them. So
But to us, you are. Okay, so take it in.
Yeah.
You need to, it's another facet of what we run into over and over again when people are in this kind of a dispute that they cannot resolve themselves. It's so important that they reach out for help from somebody else, and then we step in. A piece of it is this terrible feeling of failure. You know, if not on both parts, at least on one side of the conversation. And one of the simplest parts of the job, challenging but simple, is to let people know this is very normal. You said it yourself at the beginning of the program. Very few people seem to know how to listen well. And I can't explain, you know, what all is behind that, but I do notice that there aren't too many places where we're taught to listen, other than perhaps in school, where the essential quality of listening is be quiet. And that's actually such a small piece of it. So we do the workshop in part because there's just not enough of us to go around and mediate all the communication issues there are.
Yeah.
We want to enlist the help of you and anyone who's interested enough to take a workshop.
Okay, my next question is, do you think from all the years you've been professional mediators that people really want to become a good listener? I mean, do they have that desire? Oh boy, you know, now like this program, I'm hoping that this program is really going to help people because I'm so upset about poor listeners. I really am. And there's no way that I can say, hey, I can really teach you to be a good listener. And
Well, I wouldn't say that people are typically really eager to learn how to be a listener, but I do think they have a basic eagerness to be in relationship with people. And so if they are experiencing a real wall, a real obstacle to being in relationship with another person, then the idea that we bring to them of learning how to learn how to listen for deep understanding begins to make some sense, because it's a road toward building a better relationship with the other person.
For the sake of the relationship, you do what's necessary, right? And so when you want to preserve a relationship and you're stuck, you need to do something different.
Yeah, right.
And we have some ideas about different things that people can do to unstick a conversation that wants to happen.
Give some more ideas.
Well,
Please.
so we've been demonstrating reflecting things back to you.
Yeah.
Right, and asking some questions to clarify. So again, when you don't understand, or when something is said that doesn't piece together easily for you, one of the best things you can do is just say, can you, again, help me understand how those two things go together? I don't get it. And we all love to be helpful. I
That's
think
true.
everybody
That's true.
enjoys
Yeah.
to be helpful. And if you are a good listener, you are providing a sorely needed service. And so I think as we notice the impact it can have, we'll all get more enamored of giving someone useful attention.
And what we've learned is that it's not uncommon for a person not to really know the deep-seated feelings that are going on inside them. So when a listener can use a third ear, sometimes we call it a third ear, where you set aside some of the statements or the statements of fact that the other person is making, and you're trying to listen for tone and the underlying feeling behind it, and we can reflect that feeling back to them, and they sometimes will say, "Oh my gosh, you got it. That's exactly how I feel." And that is just so moving for them. It opens a door for some self-understanding that they hadn't had before.
Mm-hmm. And we all, not all, I don't mean to say this as a general statement, but I do believe a lot of people have very fragile egos. And I think people can be hurt easily, not just old people, but all people, kids, you know what that can do to them. So if we can be nice to people and to be better listeners, I think it means so much to that person. Because I have some friends who are really good listeners, and I just love them because I feel that they really care about me. You know.
And we've included in our book, by the way, a statement of a very important principle, which is the relationship is often more important than being right. And so when the other person begins to get an idea that the way we're relating to them is not from a conviction that I have the right view on this particular topic, but we are really interested in developing a stronger and a better relationship with you, and the process is going to involve me listening to you so that I can better learn what has gone through your mind to arrive at that position. And I'm probably going to be very surprised that it's been a very logical, well thought out process, and I wasn't giving you credit for that before, but now I am giving you credit for being a rather interesting person.
That's true. That's true. And just in this day and age, it's so important for us to feel good about ourselves. And I think it's a hard road sometimes to really get there. Do you feel good about yourself, Paul?
I do.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it's funny because there's a challenge to feel good about yourself. We all feel like we're being measured all the time. It's hard not to feel it being here in a television studio, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, if we show up how we are, we actually all are fascinating. And if it's just safe to show up, we should have no fear that we'd be interesting. But we do have to show up. And when we're afraid, we tend to bring something else. We tend to bring a mask. And we look through the mask at the other person, and all they see is the mask, and that's not easy to relate to. And so they don't want to relate. So I think that, yes, we want to feel special and good and heard. And I really fundamentally believe we all are remarkable. And there's just a treasure to be dug for.
Right.
And when you're someone who digs for treasure, you'll find it.
Well, I'm so glad to know you. I'm so glad that we had this show. And I know, Jack, you feel good about yourself. We have about a minute to go.
Yes, I do, and I just feel that it's such a treasure, and it's such an amazing thing to be able to tap into whatever talents that one has, and be able to contribute to another person's life in a meaningful way, and to connect on a really deep level, on a soul level.
I thank you both so much. I only wish the best of health and continue. You guys have to write the books and have these workshops and help as many people as you can. And thank you so much for helping me, really.
Thank you for inviting us. It's been a real pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And, of course, my hot crew. You guys, especially you, this is your third appearance. That's how popular you are, Mr. Jack Hamilton. Anyway, I want to thank my crew because they're so fabulous. And, of course, I want to thank my audience for watching us. And I cannot wait till I see you next time. Bye-bye.